Order. One more time, everybody. Order. Hello, guys. Good evening to you all, and welcome to the first workshop of the Apechain Hackathon. Okay, so we currently have only there are only 8 in the call right now. Okay, so I think we'll be starting exactly at 7:10. We don't have much time, and since this since this session is recorded, maybe later on we'll share it to the community. But I really would love to see many people joining this session today. So that we can. The beginning is always the problem, you know. The moment you miss that one, things somehow can become a mess. Okay, so we're going to start the development tonight, and what we'll be doing basically today is to I'll be taking you to how you set up your environment. That's we'll be covering the tools that you need as a Web3 developer. Okay, so we're not going to talk much. So one thing is that every chain that you want to build on provides you with via documentation. Okay? So you don't necessarily need to look for content somewhere unless you want to learn more about what you want to do. Okay, but there are some things that you will need to have installed, especially if you are just building for the first time in Web3. And other things are there, not necessarily building in Web3, but if you don't have these softwares installed on your laptop, you won't be able to run even npm or even Git. Okay, so these are some of the things that we'll be covering tonight. And then I also think that what's the schedule? We'll also be building our first smart contract. Okay, so one thing about a dApp is that a dApp is made up of the smart contract and then the front end. All right, so that's why dApps are kind of like serverless applications. Even though there are some dApps that you want to build, and you can still have a server somewhere, but what qualifies your app as a dApp, is the blockchain. So especially transactions are supposed to be on the blockchain, because anytime we have fraudulent activities happening with regards to an app, normally that concern the transaction aspect. For example, let's say if you are using the bank app or even the MTN mobile app, and then behind the scene, some transactions or deductions are being made, which you don't know why they are made. Maybe there's some few people sitting in a room, or there's this developer sitting in the room adjusting things that you as a user, you don't have control over. Maybe the only thing you can do is to come online and be complaining. But what if by the time you want to complain, the worst has already occurred? Okay, and that's why we have the blockchain. Now, the blockchain ensures that transactions that occur on it are, made public, transparent, and also they are immutable. So someone using your app for something, if a person conduct a transaction on your app, if your app is a dApp, if somebody conducts a transaction on your app, this particular transaction is recorded on the blockchain, and there is no way you can say either the transaction didn't happen or something like that. We do have some people launder money and do many other things, and they can connive with the platforms that allow them to do that. And they have a way, if you know how server applications happen, you can easily sit and just clear certain things, or things like that. And that's why we have this blockchain. Okay, so your blockchain app will have the smart contract aspect and then the front end aspect. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, first, let's take ourselves through how do we set up um, a blockchain development environment or a decentralized application development environment. So we're going to start from the very basics. Okay, then after this, I'll be recommending some resources to you guys to go and check it out. You can do more, you can practice more on these resources whilst you build your application. So, one thing about the developer ecosystem is that a lot of things have been made, easy for us. That's why we have dependencies, we have libraries, and so many things. The same thing applies to building. Normally, we have some repositories or even packages that you can easily clone and start building your app in it. So all of these things will be shared with you immediately after here, so that will fast track your work. If you don't want to start everything from scratch, that will fast track your work. But all we're doing now is just to teach us to how to do the setting up. Okay, So it's already 7:10, and I think Multivar is in the building, and you're supposed to start with the introduction.
Man, I'm there.
All right, you're welcome. So
Thank
the
you.
floor is
All right.
you get like 6 minutes to
6 minutes. Okay. That's good. Good evening once again. Hey, this show of attendance, it shouldn't be like the show is already getting hot. 14 in the building. That's serious. Okay. So I will just take you through, though we've already sent the schedule to you as far as the workshop time is concerned. But let me just quickly run you through what is expected, and then we can all be better prepared for that. So good evening to you all.
good evening.
Okay. I'm trying to good. Um, Relying upon for the next few days as far as the workshop and its facilitation is concerned. I'm not going to just read detail to detail, so that because it is a readable document that we can all read through and we all have access to it. So yesterday we started with the orientation, for which the activities are stated here. Today being the 13th, we are going to look at some of the introductory sessions like I am doing now, and then Sabia will take you through guided build 1, for which we will be looking at setting up your development environment to start building. So all the necessary tools that you need to set up, all the builder environment facilities you require to have efficient building will all be introduced to you. So please stay tuned and then pay attention very well as far as that is concerned. And then you also be taken through some smart contracts, building from scratch, and then learn how to use the hard framework and best practices as far as that is concerned. That is for today, and then we will wrap up with Q&A. And tomorrow, day 3, that will be on the 14th of April. We will continue with the guided build, which is now going to be the guided build 3 and that of guided build 4. But in between that, we shall have a talk on how to leverage blockchain, hackathon experiences for future opportunities. Hackathon don't end here. After you've hacked, you need to act.
So I think we lost him. We can't hear you, Multivar. I can still see you there, but we can't hear you. So probably we lost him like that. So okay. He has only 2 minutes left to leave at this. All right. So he was saying that hackathon doesn't end like that after you just finish building. Okay. So the talk will be on how do you leverage the experience, to get future opportunities in the Web3 ecosystem. So that will be delivered by Emmanuel tomorrow. Then also tomorrow, you'll be taken through front-end integration with Next.js, eTest.js, and Web3.js, etc. So today, as we are starting with the smart contracts, the next thing we'll be doing is to talk about how do you now integrate that with, the front end. All right. So that will be handled tomorrow. And I think the third day we'll be talking about security. Okay. And then IPFX. So we'll also take you through IPFX security and best practices. And these are the key things you need as a Web3 developer. Okay. Because the blockchain is quite slow, especially you cannot handle, some data cannot be handled on the blockchain. For example, if you want to handle, you can handle that all right, but that will not be gas efficient. So there are some practices that you need to, incorporate as a builder to make sure that you stay efficient with gas. And that will be the use of IPFX. So let's say you are building a app that requires user information, um, user information that will include his profile picture, maybe medical records, and many other things. You don't have to store these things on the blockchain, but we still have a decentralized platform that you can store this, and that is the IPFX. So we're taking you through that, and also, this smart contract security thing too, which is very important because auditing is key in building a DApp. Your application has to be audited. In fact, a lot of people have to go through your contract to be sure that this particular contract is safe because this is a decentralized ecosystem. All right. So that one we'll be talking about. So I think that will be and also David will be taking you through how you can, aside just deploying on the Apechain ecosystem, there are also some opportunities that as a builder you can still get within the Apechain ecosystem.
myself.
Then yeah, we lost you for like 20 years
In
back.
fact, I have finished the entire thing.
Yeah, we lost you.
Okay, continue,
But
man.
I think we are done now. Then
Yes.
we can then start. Okay. So guys, what we're going to do now is to set up our development environment to start building. So I'm sure some of you have already done that, but let's still go, let's just go to the platform and start doing this together. Okay, so if you can code along, that's good, but I'll not be taking you through, some of the things that will waste our time. I just try to show you what you should really be doing. So let me share my screen. Okay.
If you have your team members that are not in the meeting, you can quickly alert them that the meeting is ongoing, because whilst they are not involved, be rest assured they are going to give you a difficult task if they don't get these initial stages very well. So if you are here and your team members are not here, is either you give them a call, give them a text, alert them that we've started the session. All the sessions are going to be kind of building upon each other. So if you miss the first step, it is going to be very difficult for you to get the subsequent ones. So I'll let them.
Okay. Yeah, so that's that. Okay. So first thing we need to do is to open the Apechain site. So I'll be going to the Apechain because Apechain has already provided us with a documentation that we can just follow to start building on their chain. So I'll be walking you through their documentation, and then they have a very simple code there that will allow you to put everything together. Then you start building. All right. So apechain.com, and then when you get to the platform, okay. All right, so this is this is slow. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so before I open the site, I want to let you guys know that if you don't have Node.js installed on your machine, then you have to first get Node.js, and then also you need Git. Yes, Git is needed because after you finish building, you have to push your work to GitHub. Okay, so if you are somebody who is currently or who currently do not have Git installed on your machine, you need to get that installed. And then Node.js, you can install the current or the latest one. Very important. Okay, so now we are on the Apechain website, and because you are a builder, when you get to this platform where you will navigate to, we have items here, but where you will be going is the builder because, and when you step on the builder, you go to docs. That's a documentation. Okay, so let's go to documentation and start building. Now, as a blockchain developer, you can use several frameworks to start building. Okay, and the frameworks are, we have so many, but the most used frameworks are Hard Hat, Foundry, and then Remix. All right, but we are going to focus on Hard Hat and then Remix. Okay, and I think Hard Hat, currently the Hard Hat is the most used framework in the Ethereum ecosystem. So if you're a developer, you can easily use Hard Hat. Now, Hard Hat will give you okay, let me not talk much. If you check here, you can see everything that you need is here. And then we have Hard Hat here that you'll be using. So let me click on there to open that. Okay. And then here we said, it says, well, what is Hard Hat? So this is a development environment for Ethereum that helps you as a developer to manage the common tasks involved in building smart contracts and decentralized applications. Okay, so if you want to learn more about Hard Hat, right now what we need to understand is how do we use Hard Hat. But let's say if you want to understand more about Hard Hat, everything concerning Hard Hat, they have a website that you can easily check it. So you just look for Hard Hat, you get their website, then you go and learn more about Hard Hat. Okay, but what you need to understand is it is a development environment or a framework that help you as a Web3 developer to manage your smart contract easily deployed and then also integrate other things with your contract. So that's what Hard Hat is. Okay, so like I was saying, before you start using Hard Hat, you need some basic knowledge. If you don't have this knowledge, that will be a problem. Okay, so one is Solidity. You need Solidity programming language. You need the skills before you can write smart contracts. Also, you need to know React or even Next.js. So either React.js or Next.js. Okay, so if you are a React developer here, I think you also have a chance of building with Next.js because these two platforms are not that too different. Okay, so React for scripting and front-end development. That's what you also need. And then development environment, like I already mentioned, you need Node.js and NPM or Yarn. If you don't have these things, just try to get them right now on your machine because you need to have them. Okay, Node.js, you can find it here. I'll be sharing the resources with you right after here so that you can check that. Okay, so you need Node.js to install Hard Hat. We'll be doing that very soon. Okay, another thing that you need is MetaMask. So you either use MetaMask. Now there are so many Web3 wallets. Okay, but it is a must that you must have a Web3 wallet on your browser before you can write a smart contract. The reason being that your app need to, interact with the blockchain. And to get to the blockchain, you have to do that through a provider. So we know what providers are. Even if you are not building in Web3, even in Web2, you need providers to interact with so many applications, okay, or so many servers. You need a provider to interact with, is it React, Redux, the store, and many other things that normally we use providers to do. Even the Next.js team, you need a provider or the next provider to do that. So exactly, that's the same thing the MetaMask do. So MetaMask will allow you to get an account installed there. Then you can get your wallet and then get some test tokens inside this MetaMask. Now, anytime you want to interact with the blockchain, you do that through the MetaMask. First, you have to sign a transaction on the MetaMask. That will now provide you, that will now give you a provider that will send you directly to the blockchain using Ethers.js. So now Ethers.js is the library that will do that. Okay. So you can also open this platform on your, or this page on your laptops. If you don't have MetaMask, just click on MetaMask here. This is a hyperlink that will send you to their website. You can install the extension onto your browser or Ethers.js too. So if you just want to learn more about Ethers.js too, you can do that here. Okay. And now this is how you install Ethers.js. So just like installing a dependency, anytime you are building a front end, a React app, normally you install so many dependencies. Okay, so that's the same way to, you have to install Ethers.js as a dependency and then use npm install Ethers. So we'll be doing a lot. Also, when we go to security, so Open Zeppelin contracts, you use Open Zeppelin contracts for secure smart contracts. Okay, so the reason why we'll be using Open Zeppelin, we'll get to understand that when when we get to the workshop that will handle security. We'll talk about that. Okay, so now let's look at how to start developing on the Apechain blockchain using Hard Hat. It is very simple. So we're going to do that. I'll open my terminal so that I will do that in a practical way. So let me come. I have to open both screens on my laptop so that I'll be showing you. Okay. So if you want to code along, just open your terminal, and then we have some instructions here that I will be following to do that. All right. So first thing first, you make your
Hi, Sahabia. It seems for some reason we can't, for me, I can't see any other thing apart from your apechain.com page.
Oh, okay. That means it didn't work. So let me just try to share again. So I'm coming. Let me do it again. I'm back. That's serious. Anyway. This is how the laptop can. Okay, so I'm sharing that now. Now, what I would need you guys to do is that if you are here, if you are there with your laptop, open the Apechain website on your laptop and then navigate to the docs or the documentation. So I'll only be showing you my terminal. Now I'm using an external monitor. I was trying to show both screens, and I don't know, for some reason, I'm finding it difficult to do that now. So maybe I'll just show you only my terminal. Okay. Anyway, it seems that will work now. Okay. Can you see my screen very well? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
No, we can see your screen.
You can see? Did somebody say they can't see my screen? Okay. So Apechain. Okay. So now let's start coding. I'll go back to Hard Hat. And then what I will do is that first let's create. So let me go to docs. And then you know what to do. We have to first create the working environment where we want to have. So now we have this simple, Apechain has provided this simple contract or app for you to use to learn how you can easily configure everything on their platform. And that's what we'll be doing. So the first thing we do is to, the mkdir, then we create our directory. So let's call it is called Hello Ape, right? And then after that, so I'm doing this, trying to initialize a new Hard Hat project. So that is how it is being done. So first, I just created my directory that is called Hello Ape. Then I have to cd to the directory Hello Ape, and I'm inside there. So now let's look at how to initialize a Hard Hat. So the command is very simple: npx. This is how you do it. Okay. Now, when you do that, this particular place is very important. So let me expand for you guys to see. Normally, when you miss some steps here, you will find it very difficult because there are some things that you need to make sure that you configure, or those things are configured. So when you type the command npx hard hat, the screen will come up like this. And then if you are a JavaScript developer, then you choose JavaScript. As you can see, create a JavaScript project. If you are a TypeScript developer, so me like this, I'm a TypeScript developer. So, but we are going to use JavaScript. But if you are somebody that normally build with TypeScript, then you choose TypeScript. And then TypeScript with Vim, there are many things that you can choose here. So now let's stay with the create a project with JavaScript. So, and then you just press on enter. And then now this particular question comes, that Hard Hat project. Do you want to have it in the root? Yes, I want to have it in that root. So what I'll do is press enter. And this particular git ignore is a very important folder. You need that. So we just say yes. Now there's something that you should take note. Now look at something here. We have this particular Y. You see Y. So if by default it is selected as Y, it means that yes, you want to have this particular item or feature in your project. So if it is Y, you just press on enter, and then you move to the next question. But if you don't want to have this, for example, let's say you don't want to have get ignore, what you do is to press N. Okay, so you press N on your keyboard, and that will turn it to N. It means that you don't want to have it. Okay, so I want to have get ignore, so I'll just press. And then this is the most important place. People normally miss here, and later they have problems. Okay, do you want to install these sample projects dependencies with npm? So what we'll do here is yes. So if you come to this particular place, just make sure that Y is selected. If Y is not selected, and by default it is N, you toggle it to Y before you press on your keyboard. You press enter on your keyboard. Okay, so mine is already Y. I just press enter, and then you now see that installation is taking place. So this will take a while, but this depends on your internet speed normally. And I think my current internet speed is not that very good. Okay, so now if you don't have Node.js, you cannot get to this level because you need Node to get here. All right. So let's just give it a time to install, and then we move to, okay, so that's, okay, so now that is done. Another thing that you will need, okay, is .env. Now, why do we need .env? We need .env because this is a dependency that will allow us to be able to interact with our .env file or folder. So you're going to have some, some things that you don't need to let people know. So that's the security aspect of your DApp. We're going to cover that when we move forward. So if you don't have .env, you won't be able to communicate with your DApp. So when you are installing, just make sure that you also have .env installed. So after you configure hard hat, also run npm install .env. Okay, so I just copied it. npm, sorry, that's not. So npm I and then .env. Okay, so that is installed. Now when we move later on, you see why we need .env. Okay, now after here we move to the next level. This one says that we will use an .env file to hold our private key and pass it into our hard hat config.js file. Okay, so now this is what happened. Before you before you deploy your DApp onto the Apechain blockchain, you have to do that. Your DApp or the app you are building will have to interact with your account. And here you are not interacting with, because this is the server side of the app. Okay, just like if you are building a server. So this is now like the server side. The blockchain is like the server side in this context. So you will need to go directly to your wallet, and you do this using your private key. So when we get there, you're going to go to your MetaMask, grab your private key, then you bring it here to set inside your .env file. So that's what we're doing. So before we create the .env, I want to send us to Visual Code. So I'll go to Visual Code, code dot, then that will send me to Visual Code. So I will now continue everything inside this Visual Code. And there's something that you need to you have to see if you are starting with hard hat. So after you configure everything to this level, and you go to code, Visual Code. Some of you are not using VS. I mean, that's my favorite IDE. So maybe you are using different one. That's still okay. Okay, but on VS, this is how your hard hat project should look like. So the moment you finish installing it or configuring into your you should have something like this. If you don't have something like this, it means there's a problem somewhere. Okay, so first folder you see is the contracts folder. So now this contracts folder house everything about your smart contracts. So if you're going to use like the modular kind of building smart contracts, or your app is going to contain so many smart contracts, everything will be housed inside this particular folder, the contracts folder. The next important folder is the ignition folder. So this ignition folder is where you deploy. So that's where the execution or the deployment execution takes place. So this is where you come. As you can see, we have this sample project. Okay, so even if you are just starting with hard hat, the moment you install hard hat, you'll be given this sample project, the lock.so. So you can just compile, run it, and you'll see how things are being handled here. So we're going to replace this block.so because that's not what we'll be building. And then we have this ignition folder where you do your deployment. Another important folder we have here is the test folder. So before you start testing with your front end, if you are building here, it's just like if you are building a server with your controllers or endpoints, and then now you need either Postman or what's the other one I was using? So let me just say you need Postman to test your endpoints. The same thing applies here. So if you are building on hard hat, you will need this test folder to do your testing. So you can see what is inside there. We have this JavaScript code. I'm sure you have seen this in many places if you are a JavaScript developer or a server-side developer. This is not different from what you use in, and this will help you to test your contract before you even go to your front end. So that's what we'll be doing. Now, let's go back to Apechain documentation and see what they have. So I just explained here to you, this is the structure of everything. Okay, so before we move, remember, you have to create .env in the root directory. So let me create my .env file in the root directory. Okay, so now I'm good to go. Okay, now let's move to the next step. So step 2 says that write the Hello Ape contract. So inside your lock.sol, delete the existing boilerplate code and then copy and paste the code below. This is a simple Solidity file that defines a string, greeting, and a function that returns the string. So, this is just a boiler code that they are giving to us to do our testing. So by default, when you install hard hat, you're going to have a lock.sol contract. We are asked to delete it or replace it with this particular code. So let's look at the code. This is a very simple code. So the name of the contract is called Hello Ape. So I just copy this hello, and I'll rename this particular file. So I'll rename this file to hello contract. So hello.so. So hello Ape.
Power off.
As you can see. And then now we don't need this. What I'll do is I'll just copy this code here, then highlight everything, delete, and then replace that there. So this is what we are asked to do. Okay. So when you get to step 2, it's very simple. Make sure that the log.sol will be renamed to hello ape.sol. Copy this code and then replace the boilerplate code there. Okay, now let's move to step 3. Step 3 says that update your ignition file. So where's the ignition file? I already showed you. We have the ignition file here. This is where you deploy, okay? But there is something that you need to do if you are just building now. After you finish building your contract, before you even go to ignition or before you go to deployment, you have to always compile. Solidity is a compiled language, unlike JavaScript. So if you are building with C programming or Java, all these compile languages, that's how Solidity 2 is. You have to compile to see that you don't have any error. And to compile in hard hat, it is very easy. So let me go to the terminal. This is how you compile. So you say npx, then hard, then we say compile. So this is how you compile. Then let's go. Okay, so it says that compiled one Solidity file successfully. It means that there's no problem in the code. If there was a problem, that will be indicated. So let me just remove this particular semicolon. Then I'll try to compile again. Let's see what happens. So npx hard compile, and then now I have an error. You can see it says what expected this but got this. So compilation is very important if you are building here. So I have to return back there, and then let me compile again. All right. So now that we compile and everything is working well, let's move to deployment. Let's go and deploy. Now we are not going to test. This is not telling us to test, but if you wanted to test, you just come here and then you will read the code here. It is very simple. When you come, you don't even need to just, you know, the code you are building or the contract you are building, you know your functions and whatever. So when you come here, you have to, somebody said, seems somebody saying something. So I think multiple, if you can accept them, I just.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay. Let's go on. Now, we are not testing, but we are moving straight to deployment. And this is how you deploy. So what we're going to do here is that let's also edit this particular .gs to hello. So I'm just going to rename it to hello. So let me say hello ape. So hello ape.js. Okay. So you do something like this. And then you look at the code here, and the code that Apechain is providing, they are the same thing. Okay. So what you just need to do, anytime you get a hard hat project, what you need to do is that when you get here, just try to understand what is being done here. Okay. This code is being provided by Hard Hat for you to use to do your deployment. So when you come, you don't need to try to say that you want to change something or whatever. No, just try to understand how do I now fix inside here to deploy my contract. Okay, and that is what Apechain is doing here. So you can see that the code here is the same here, but they just modified it so that they can be able to deploy their contract, which is named as Hello Ape. So let's do something. Let's copy this. So after renaming the file to Hello Ape, I'll copy this code, go back there and replace it. Stuff like this. And then check something here. Model.export. Okay, so build model. So this build model function is being given to us by Hard Hat. And then when you come here, you have to get your contract name. Okay, so it says that const lock is called to m.contract. So this particular place, you're supposed to put in the name of the contract that you want to deploy. And mind you, something is very important here. If you make a mistake and then you put a name that does not correlate with the name you have here, you have a problem. The deployment will not happen. So you make sure that what you are putting here is the same as what you have here. So normally this is what I do. I just come here. This is the contract I want to deploy. Then I do like I want to rename it. And then I just copy. Something like that. Okay. Or don't even do that. Sometimes you go, because this is where it will come and pick it. So I just come here. Then I highlight the name of the contract. So contract Hello Ape. I highlight this particular one because this is a contract I want to deploy. Then I go back to the deployment script. And then here, I just replace this one with the name Hello Ape. So here, you can even have it as something like this, Hello Ape model. For this particular play, there's no problem. Whatever you have there, there's no problem. So this is like a variable that you use to like understand that the name of this particular deployment is this and that. So you can even have it as Hello model, or you just leave it as the Hello Ape. Okay. But normally for me, when I get here, to make my code clean and then, get some differentiations, I just add the model there. something like this. And then you now have const lock. So then you return the lock. So why not we remove this const lock, and then you say, name it const hello ape, something like that. So const hello ape, and then now let's return the ape, this particular variable. And check something here. This hello ape thing, this is in caps. So if you are returning this, you don't need to have it. So we could leave it as the hello ape, but just like I was saying, you know, we have to get clean code. So when you have it like const hello ape, now it correlates well with your script. So I don't know why they have this lock. They didn't want to do much there. Okay, so you can just say hello ape, then return it here as an object. So that one be returned here as an object. Okay. So now after that, we move to the next session that says what? Step 4, configure hard hat for Apechain. So if you miss any of these steps, your DApp will not be deployed. You have a problem. So you have to make sure that you follow each step. So this is how you configure for Apechain. There are different ways. If you want to configure for Arbitrum or Arbitrum testnet, there are, you know, you will be having something. This is not how you do it, but you still have the same script. You know, this script, how this script is looking at or looking will still be the same thing that you have there. Okay. I think I have to grab water. So that is how it is. Now, what you need to do here is you look for your hard hat config file. You can find it here, hard hat config. So just copy this code here, then you replace it there. Okay, copy this and replace it. So now you are not changing this one. The name here is not going to be changed. You leave it like that. And then see what they are saying here. It says that modify hardhat.config to include necessary plugins and configurations. Notice we are adding require.env.config and accounts process.env.private key to pass out private key in. Okay, so just like I was telling you, now this particular configuration here will help your project to communicate with the blockchain and then deploy your contract on the blockchain. So what is happening here? In this configuration, we have first the Solidity version that you are using. So something you have to take note is that here we are using Solidity version 0.8.17. Okay. And then always make sure that the version you are using here is either the same as the version you are using in your contracts. As you can see here, we have Pragma Solidity 0.8.17. So you make sure that the configuration inside this particular configuration, what you have here is the same thing you have here. If not, you run into error when deploying. Okay, for example, let's say that here is 1.7, and then what we have here is say 1.6. So sometimes even an error will be shown. Okay, so if you try to now deploy, you have an error. It will not be deployed because here you are saying that you want to use Solidity version 0.8.16 to deploy your contract, which you are using 0.8.17. So that will not. You want to use my junior, it will not work that way. Okay, so but there is something here. If this particular place is 0.20, but you still have here as 0.17, you can be able to deploy. The only problem is if here is less than here, it will not work. But if the configuration version is more than the the contract version, your deployment will still work. Okay, but now let's just maintain the 17. I say 17. Okay, now the reason why you are seeing 17 here is because this is a guide we are following on. This is a guide we are following here, but if you are installing fresh hard hats right now, they will give you version 2.8. So 0.8.28, not 0.17. This is old fashioned. It's too old. Okay, now we are living in Solidity version 0.8.28, and they are still giving us 0.17. Okay, so I will change it to 28. You can also change yours because this is very old, or you just leave it. Okay, but if you are building your DApp right now, go with the latest. So 0.28, we leave it at 0.28. Then look at what is going on here. We have the version and then we have the networks. So this is where you indicate the networks that you want to deploy onto. So now we are deploying onto Apechain. Okay. And then this URL is the RPC. So it's very important. You need to have that the RPC, then your account. This now like your private key. So the RPC is like let me see what I'll use it to. So the RPC is like if you are developing with MongoDB as a Web2 developer, if you are using MongoDB, you have to get a very long string like that, some URL that you copy from MongoDB to integrate to your website or your front end, so you can be able to send your data to. So that's how the RPC works. So the RPC is like it's a node that will now help your DApp to connect to the blockchain. Okay, and it needs your private key to process that because it has to understand that a human being is doing this interaction or this transaction, and that's why your private key is needed. And then as you can see, so the beginning of everything, we had this .env dependency, and now we are using it here. This will help us to interact with our env here. So now let's set our private key inside the .env file. If not, you won't be able to deploy. But now when you look at the configuration, everything is now right in the configuration. We'll be deploying onto the Apechain through this particular RPC URL using our private, our wallet private key. But where is the private key? We want to get the private key from .env. Big Nash, can you mute yourself? We want to get our private key from our .env.
Sorry, someone wants to join, but the person is unable to, unless someone accepts the person.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is to set our private key inside our .env file. So let's do that. And this is how to do it. We have this particular code here. I just copy this, and then I'll paste it inside my .env. And this one says that get your private key. So we're going to replace here with our private key. So now how do you get your private key? I'll show you how to get your private key. And you copy your private key, then bring it here. Okay, so I told you that you need MetaMask or any Web3 provider, or wallet to be able to get your private key. So this is my MetaMask here, and I'll be using my test account. Okay, now something very important that you should understand here: do not use the wallet or the accounts that you are using for your personal transactions or where you have normal money. Do not use it as a testing account. So when you get here, only use, if you are testing or if you are just building, only use private keys from test accounts. This is very important. People have lost a lot of money, and just because they made that particular mistake, you have to understand that. So the private key are we getting here is a private key that from a wallet that I'm only using for testing. Okay, so I'm going to switch to this particular account. So I will using this. No, let me go to this one. I will use this one. Or this further. I want to see. I have some Ape tokens. So I'll in one particular account. I don't know which account is that. Okay, this one. So I'll use this particular account to to do my thing. And this one is a testing account. As you can see the name, test. So I'm using it to do testings. So what we need to do first, when you get to a MetaMask, make sure that you have the Apechain network. So if you are testing, the name of the test network for Apechain is called Curtis. Okay, so take note. As you can see, many networks here. It means that if I want to build or deploy on the Arbitrum Sepolia, Arbitrum testnet, I have to get Arbitrum Sepolia network inside my MetaMask. But this particular project we are building is not for Arbitrum. We are building on Apechain. And this is the name of the Apechain network. So you have to get the network of that particular chain. If it is about testnet, you have to get it inside your wallet to be able to do that. And it's very easy to do that. When you get to MetaMask, look for network. So let me expand the view. You can expand the view so that you can be able to see it very well. So now let's say you are here. First thing first, go to network. So this is where you find the networks. And then it's very easy to add a network. You say add a custom network. Then a form will be open for you to fill the details of the network. So let me show you where you get the chain ID. So because we are looking for Apechain network or test network, go and grab the chain ID. So let's look for it. They have it here. So can you see something here? It is called testnet. So contracts testnet. This is where you find the testnet. So when you now move to deploy, if you now want to deploy to the main network, you come here. But because now we want to go to the test network, we have to come here. So I think yes, let me check here and see what happened. So I think I have to report this to them. There is this particular place. So here, this one will only tell you about the contract address, the contract details and stuff like that on the Apechain. So this is not talking about the core Apechain platform. This is a decentralized platform. So if you want to confirm the deployments and whatever on about their chain, they are not providing you with this. Okay, but if you want the test network for testing, you come to this particular place. So under tools, then you come to app, then testnet, click on this particular testnet, and then this page will open. So it's still loading. My internet is something. Okay. And then what we need there is the chain ID. We'll grab the chain ID, send it to our MetaMask to add the network to our wallet. So that's what we'll do. Okay. So if yours open, I'm not going to waste time. If yours open, is it open? So if yours open, just check something here. You will find, are you wasting my time? So check the details of the contract here. If it opens, just go down, you see the details. Then we have chain ID. This particular chain ID, copy the chain ID. It is 331114 for the test net. So copy this, then go back to MetaMask. It is very easy to add. Just put it here. So I'm already having it. That's why you can see something like this here. But if I don't have it, let me remove it and then add it again. So, okay. So I can't delete it like that. I have to do something like this. If I can now delete it. So delete. So the network is deleted. And then I'll go back there, copy it, come back to my MetaMask, and then under networks, add a custom network. Then I'll put the chain ID and wait to see what happens. Now this chain ID, the moment you put it there, MetaMask will try to communicate with the blockchains. to see which particular chain, equates to this particular number that you put there. And we can see suggestions here. They're saying that suggested name Curtis. Yes. So you confirm that this is the one we want, Curtis. And then it says suggested currency symbol, ape. Yes, it's ape. But there is something that it is not suggesting, which is the RPC. So now let's go and get the RPC. This is where the RPC is. You come back to the details again. Then we have these RPCs listed. So grab the first RPC. You just copy this like this. Then go back to, and then add RPC network. So we are adding the URL, not the name. The name is optional. So just leave it and then do something like this and say add. And that is all. This block explorer is optional. You don't necessarily need to have it. Okay, but if you want to add, so I just say save. And when you check back, you can see Curtis was successfully added. When I check back networks, I should be able to see Curtis. You can see Curtis here. So this is how you add a network, not just Apechain, but any network that you want to add to your MetaMask. This is how you add it. All right. So now after adding your wallet, or after adding the network to your wallet, you need some tokens in it before you can make a transaction. So this particular platform also gives you it gives you a faucet so that you can get some free tokens. Now let me get some free tokens. So now I have $0.43. What I'll do is that I just grab this particular address here. That's my wallet address. I go back and then I request some tokens. So request. Successful requested. So now if I go back, I should be able to see that my balance is increased. So wait for a minute, you can see. Now I have 0.85 USD. Okay, so this is how you get everything done over here. And what brought us here? How do we get our private key? So now let's look at how we get our private key. We are still on the MetaMask platform, and then we want to get our private key for this particular account, annual care test. This particular account, we want the private key for it. So this is where you get it. We have this 3 dots here. Then you click on account details. And when you click on account details, you will see this particular button down there. It says show private key. Now, this will request that you put your password before your private key will be revealed to you. So warning, never disclose this key. Anyone with your private keys can steal any access held in your account. This is very important. So now let me put in my password. And my private key will be revealed. So now it says that your private key provides full access to what? So still warning. It says hold to reveal private key. So I'll just click and hold it, something like that, and the private key is shown. So like as I was telling you, this is just a test account. If you grab this particular private key, there's no real money in this account. So you just copy this account. Okay, then now when you copy that, go back to your project. We'll go back to add project. Then we replace this particular place with our private key. And now everything is set. Everything is now set. We have the network added, and then we have our private key to copy it, and now we are good to go. Okay, so now let's go back to, and then we see where to go next. What is it? Add hat. Okay, so now we just finished with the configuration. We are now done with the configuration. We are moving to compiled and deployed. So now this is the final step in building a smart contract. We're going to deploy. So compile the contract. How do we do that? npx hat compile. So I already did this with you. I just copy npx hat compile. Then I'll compile the code again. Okay, so the code is compiled, everything is working well. The next thing we have to do is to deploy to Apechain blockchain. So check something here. This is a script that you run to deploy. So it's a command that you run to deploy your project onto the Apechain platform. But when you get here, there is some fixes that you need to do. You can see it says npx hard ignition deploy. So we are calling this command npx hard ignition deploy, and then we are now using this to set or fetch the particular file that we want to use to run, or the particular script that we want to use to run the deployment. And then you can see that inside the ignition folder, then inside the models folder, we now have the deployment script. Check something, the name here is wrong. That is not the name we have for our deployment script. So this is wrong. And then the next thing is, let's go to our configuration file, then get the network. And what is the network name? Check here. So the network name is called Apechain, you see? So if you make a mistake here, so this is like a JSON file. So first we get to networks, and then we get Apechain. So there are many, you can set many networks here. For example, you can have this one as, say, Apechain testnet. And then you can also have one here, and then you say Apechain mainnet. Okay. So now if you have something like this, it means that if you are deploying, you now know that whatever you are deploying here, if you are deploying for testnet, then when you are running this script, this particular place, Apechain, has to be Apechain testnet. Okay. If you are deploying to the mainnet directory, then you're now going to have here as networks, then inside network, Apechain mainnet. All right. So we are going back. I'm going to undo and go back to Apechain. Now we are deploying on this platform. I'll copy this command, then bring it to the terminal. And then on the terminal, I'm going to paste it and we'll do the fixes. First thing first is we are deploying this particular file. We are using this particular script here. It is called hello ape. But what they have here is lock.js. So we have to change it. So I have to come here and change the name to hello ape.js, as you can see. So this is now changed, and I can see that the name of the network is Apechain. So that is correct. Everything is correct. So now if you have everything correct, what we do is to just press on enter, and then we'll see whether the deployment will happen. So I say enter. Okay, so a question is out. Confirm deploy to network Apechain with a chain ID of 33111. Remember, when we were setting the network here, the chain ID was what? So you have to always take note. The chain ID was 33111. And then here it is telling you that confirm deploy to network Apechain 33111. So if here is not set to that particular network you truly want to, or you have on your MetaMask, your deployment will fail, or you deploy to a different network. So you make sure that you confirm here. So what we'll do is to press on here, Y. So you say Y, that will mean yes, and then deployment is taking place. So let's wait for execution to happen. So you can see what we have here. It says executing hello ape model. Remember, I was telling you that if I come here, I will say hello ape model. So because of this particular hello ape model, that's why here it is saying that deploying hello ape model. Okay, and when it finishes deploying, we now see what happened. So this is taking a while to deploy. Okay, so deployment is successfully, as you can see. Everything is now deployed, and hello ape model, and then with the name of the contract called hello ape. Now this is the contract address of my deployment. So when you finish deploying, you get your contract address here. So you need this particular contract address on your front end. If you don't have this, and then when you copy this and go to go to the Explorer, you'll be able to find you'll be able to see that. So this is the Explorer. Let me copy the contract address. Then I'll go to the Explorer. Okay, so let's search to see whether our deployment is really on the blockchain. So you paste the contract address here. And as you can see, we are already having it. It means the deployment was successful. As you can see, 2 minutes ago, this deployment happened on April 13, 2025. This and this 8/18. So that's the blockchain. And this particular thing you are seeing here is forever and ever. So you cannot deploy a contract, then you go back and take it out again. The moment you deploy, this is on the blockchain. So until the blockchain stops working, that is when the internet stops. And when are we going to see the internet not working? This particular thing that you see deployed is there forever and ever. But this is a text explorer. So normally for text explorers, they do clear. What you are seeing here just for testing. So you can come back later with this same contract address and you will not see this because they might move it to the cache, and because they want to get more space for people to test. So that's why. But if this is the main net, anytime, anywhere you come, you will see that the day, the genesis of the project, when it was built, deploy everything, you'll see there, just like the time and whatever. So I mean, deployment is done successfully. And now we can now start building our front end. So the moment you get to this stage, you can now say that your app is deployed. And if maybe you cancel here and you still want your contract address, when you come to the ignition folder, we have this particular folder that is created automatically when you deploy. It is called deployments. And inside these deployments, we have artifacts, build info, and even at the top there, you can also see artifacts. So deployments, and inside we have artifacts, build info, deploy address, whatever. So if you come to deployed address, this is the contract address that we just got from our deployment. And then there's also something that you need before you go to your front end, which is the ABI. We have the ABI here. So when you go to the artifacts, then inside the artifacts, you come to here. So we have two things here. This is the first. Let me expand here like this. So see something here. We have hello8.json. Okay. So here you find the JSON file. But normally this is the clean. If you want to find the ABI, a very clean ABI, go to the top one, this particular top folder created. Just come here, and then inside contracts, open contracts. Then we have this particular app. So anytime you deploy your contract, the blockchain will generate this particular JSON called ABI. So this is like the JSON structure of your contract. Okay, so whatever function, whatever logic you have inside your contract, the blockchain will generate that for you. And this is what you now send to your front end and then use to interact with the blockchain. So it's just like, this is just normal. If you are building a server and then you have your schema, okay, which is in JSON, you use the schema to interact with your database. So the same thing, the blockchain is a database. Now it generates this for you, which is the schema or the ABI, the JSON. You now send the JSON to your front end. This will help you to now interact with all the functions and logic that you have in your smart contract. So we'll be using these two things, the contract address and then this ABI. So when you are done building to this level and then you do all your testings, everything is moving well, the next thing you need to do is to start building your front end. Okay, and maybe you don't need the contract again, or you don't need this particular backend again, unless you are coming back there to do some changes, then you deploy a new contract. But if you are done building everything, now your contract is tested, everything is done, you only need these two things, the contract address and then the ABI, that ends it. Now, what we'll do is that we'll go to the next level. I'm sure now we'll be moving to building our front end. And okay. So now deployment is done successful. We'll be moving to our front end. Okay, so let's give ourselves like 5 minutes break. And then if you are coding along, just get everything set. In the next 5 minutes, it will continue. Okay, so that is it for now. So we'll continue at exactly 8:30 to just finish the front end. All right.
Fall out. Order. Open yourself. Let the things fall in, fall out, fall down. Everybody, attention. Big match, slow down, left on, right on, left on, double on, salute. Open your hands. Let the things fall in, fall out, fall down. Get ready. Hot. Order. One more time, everybody. Attention, open your hands, fall out, fall down, get ready. Order!
Okay. All right. So I'm sure you grab some coffee for the short break, so you can continue. The next stage that we're moving to is setting up the front end. And in this documentation, they are using React. Okay, so if you are a React developer, I'm sure you are laughing now. Some of us, Next.js, have taken us. So the Next.js, we have gone to Next.js, but these two platforms are still looking very similar to each other. Okay. Okay, so let's go. Step 5, that's the compilation. We are done with that. Where is that? Okay. So we are moving to step 6, which is setting up the front end. And it's very easy to do that one too. What we're going to do is inside the root of our project, we're going to create a new folder that we call front end. So as you can see, it says that initialize a new React project within the same folder. And how do we initialize that? So we are going to use this command. If you don't want to use the command, then that's where you just click on this and create, and you run a separate. But we're going to use this command to do that. So we copy the command npx create React app front end, and then you make sure that you are in the root directory, as you can see. So this is in the root directory. Okay, so I'll just put the command there. npx create React app front end, and then okay, so it says okay to proceed. So for this one, if you are a React developer, understand that this particular stage is not something that I should be talking about. Okay, so installing the packages, this will take a while to install, and it means that a new folder is going to be created. You can see the folder is already created, as we can have it here. A new folder is created in the root directory where we have the contract, the ignition, the test folders. We now have a new folder too. Okay. Okay, so that is created. We're still loading. So I'm sure when the installation is done, this should not take, in the next 5 to 10 minutes, we should be done with the front end. Because this one. And after this particular session, I'll show you guys on the HackerBoost GitHub organization. We have these particular repositories that we created for front-end integrations and many other things that you'll be doing. Okay. So what I realized that what they have here is very basic. Okay, so this is very basic, and if you want to build a very scalable project, so this is just to introduce you to how the things are being done. But I know that you guys will see this to be very basic. Yeah, if you have been building in this space for some time now, you see it to be very basic. So I recommend that you using that repository that we prepared on HackerBoost. Okay, so after you create the front end, what we need to do is to cd into the folder. So we have to cd into front end. Okay, And then after we see this particular dependency, the most important dependency in the front end is ethers. So don't ever forget to install this on your front end if you are building a smart contract based application. So we're going to install npm install ethers. Okay, so npm install ethers. Okay, so ethers is installed. If you check in the package JSON, you should see ethers. Okay, so where ethers day, this is ethers, as you can see, and we are moving with the correct version. So always try to make sure that you have ethers in your front end. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is to grab our ABI. You remember I mentioned something like ABI. So we have to now go and grab our ABI. And then they have given us where we should keep our ABI. So now when you go to our front end, our React front end is here. There is this particular folder, source folder. And you know, this contains your components, your app logic, the app.js, and you know, all of those things are contained in this source folder in React. So what you can see here is that it is telling us that we should get the ABI. And like I mentioned, I told you guys that ABI is a JSON of your contract. So you're going to grab that particular ABI and bring it to your front end, or you'll be using that on your front end. Okay, so we're going to create this particular folder called helloape.json inside the source folder. So we'll create it here. We create the file inside this, and we call it helloape. So helloape.json. Don't ever forget, it's a JSON file. That's JavaScript object notation, right? I think that's the name. So you create this, and then what we do is that we go back to our contracts. So we'll go back to our contracts, and then we have what is this particular player artifacts. So let's go and grab our ABI from the contracts folder. It is here, ABI helloape.json. So just copy everything here. So look, we are copying everything here because this is what the guide here is telling us to do. Okay, but if you are building your apps, you might not, if your contract is too big, you will not like to copy everything here because that will just be loading so much things on your front end. So what you need to do is you will grab only the ABI here, but that will now depend on if you know how to handle, you know, JSON files very well. You don't need to copy everything here, but you just grab only this ABI, and then you send it to your front end. But this guide is telling us that we should copy everything in this because this is just a very simple contract. Okay, you just look at the ABI, very small. So we click here, copy everything here. Then we go back to our front end. Remember, this is what we created. It is currently empty. So we paste it here. Okay, the next thing to do is we have been provided with this particular boiler code. So we're going to replace what we have here by default. When you get a new React app, by default, you have this particular code in it. But we're going to replace this code with what we are provided here. So if you read through, okay, let me copy it and I'll explain some few things to you inside this code. So we're going to copy this entire code, send it to, let me expand the view, yes, no. Then we bring it here and then just highlight. And then what we do is paste what we copied. So I just copied this and then I pasted it there. Okay, so let's look at what we are having here. First thing first, we are importing ethers.js. Remember I told you that ethers.js is the library that will help you to connect to use MetaMask to connect to the blockchain. So you need ethers.js dependency. So we have it here. Then we have the contract ABI. So you can see helloape.json. So this is the ABI that we added. You can see a helloape.json. So you're going to import it into your app. So if you are building yours the same way they imported, that will be the same way. You have to first do what? Get the folder where you have the app or you have the file. This is the folder. We have X in the source, and then this is the name of the file, hello8.json. Okay. And then we have given this particular contract variable. That's the name of the variable that we'll be using. Then next thing is your token address. Remember, I told you that if you don't have the contract address, so they call it token address. Okay. So, and if you don't have the contract address, you won't be able to use your, to interact with that particular contract on the blockchain. So there are two things: contract address and then the ABI. So here's where you put the contract address. So let's go back to our contract and then copy the contract address and put it here. So where do we find it? We go back, we go to ignition, then deployments, and inside deployment, we have deployed addresses. Okay. So inside deployed addresses, we have this Hello Ape contract address. So I just grab this. Just grab it. Then go back to your app.js where you need it. And then I'll paste it here. Okay. So this is how you initiate everything in your front end. Okay. So I just copied the contract address and I have it here. Okay. So inside this particular code, this is React thing. We just explain this particular side for you. Now, if you have your front end, before you interact with your front end, you have to get the instance of your contract onto your front end. So if you don't get the instance of it, you can't even interact with it. And you know how these things work. You have to get even your contract. If you are building a server side, before you enter, you have to first get an instance of, the endpoint on your front end before you start interacting with it. So the same thing, we have to get the instance of the contract. And how do we do that? This particular function. So function gets greeting. It means that the name of the contract was called. So inside the contract, this was called greet. Okay. So they are calling the function as function gets greeting. Okay. So if I am building, I will not call it function get greeting, but they call it function get greeting. There are several ways. But what this particular function will do is it will help us to load the data from the blockchain or get the instance of the data or the instance of our contract on the front end so that we can do our interaction with it. And then let's look at inside the function. So this is an async function. And inside the function, what do? We have this particular if condition. And then the condition inside the if says what? Type of window.ethereum. So if the type of window.ethereum, anytime you want to interact with an app within your browser or your Windows, you use this particular window dot that particular term. So window dot this, stuff like that. So we have here, the moment you say window.ethereum means that the browser should check within itself to see whether there is any Ethereum app within it. And normally the MetaMask is, the browsers. This is how you get the browser. So it has to go through the browser to check to see whether, Ethereum, it has an Ethereum wallet available. So when you go to MetaMask, you can read more about this particular thing. Okay, if you are used to this, you don't need to go to MetaMask again. But if you still want to learn more about this, MetaMask documentation will help you to understand everything about it. Now, the first thing you need to do is to get the account. So if you are using a decentralized application, the moment you log in, you see that the address of your address will be indicated or will be shown on the platform that this is the person connected. That is the same thing. First thing you want is to display your address or to show that this is the person connected with connected right now on the platform. Okay, so how do you get that? This particular thing will help you to do. It's a cons, and then we have this array destruction. So the reason why we have this array destruction is because what you get from this particular script is an array. So this one is just destructuring you know, the whole thing using an array. But someone may decide not to do this way. You can just have a variable, say cons account, and then when you get the result, you access the first index. So normally when you call this, the first index that counts, you know, it will bring you several addresses. Then the first address is the one that is connected right now to, you know, so that is, you just say, you know, you get the index. So I don't want to even talk much there. Let's say I have cons. So say I have cons. So I have cons account. And then I have this window or whatever. So the return of this account, it will come with several accounts. So many accounts will be returned in an array. Okay. So now, instead of just destruction it here, if you are not destruction but you are going this way, then what you need to do here is to set user address, this use state. You have to set it to the index, the first index. So it will be index 0. So if you return something like this, you will still have what they have here. Okay. So let's not confuse ourselves. I'll just go back to the destructuring they are doing here. Just that you won't be seeing this in many places. Okay, maybe you'll be seeing what I'm showing you here in many places, but what they have here, you might not be seeing that in many places. But it still also work. They just destructure this from everything. Okay. So now when you do this, then first thing to do is to get your provider. You know, I mentioned something to you, a provider. So the provider is what will now, you know, this is where you call your MetaMask. So you bring your MetaMask to your front end, then you let your MetaMask do the magic for you. Then how do you now let your MetaMask go and grab your contract onto your front end? So first you need the provider, and then this is how the whole thing goes. So like I mentioned, you don't need to just, if you want to learn more about this, MetaMask or ETHGS will help you to learn more about it. But this is the standard way of getting the instance of, you know, your contract. So first you need the provider. And what do you see here? It says browser provider, which is window.ethereum. So window.ethereum here is the Ethereum wallet, which is installed on your browser. That's a windows.ethereum. Okay. And you are using this particular method here, browser, ethers.browser.provider, windows.ethereum, it gives you the provider. Now, when you get the provider, we now have a variable, which is the contract variable. And then this is what you pass in. It takes 3 arguments. Okay, so the first argument is the contract address. And remember, we set the contract address here. So the first argument is the contract address. The next thing is the ABI. So we are using this particular import that we have here, a contract, and you know this is a JSON. So if I go to here, okay. All right. So that's what we have here, like contract, and then dot ABI will give us the ABI. And then the last thing is to pass in the provider. So this particular provider that we declared here or we initialize here, we pass it in 3 things. And after you do this, the return of this particular contract, this one will give you an instance of your contract from the blockchain. And then now you can now use this particular thing alone. You can now use it to interact with your contract. So any function that you want to call, you just use it and you get it. For example, check here. It says cons greeting from contract. So now we want to get greeting from contract. If you go to the Hello Ape contract, we have this particular function greet. Okay, so this function greet, check this in, string public greeting. This is a variable, and then we have hello apes. Okay, so it's a string variable, but it is public. And if you are a Solidity developer, the moment you see public, the moment you see public like this, it means that this particular variable, even though it's a variable which is being initialized with hello ape, but the public here will make it a function. It gives it a getter function that you can even call it on your front end. So here we have the contract, the instance of a contract, and then it is calling the greeting variable, which also has a getter function, as you can see. And the result of it is hello apes. So that's what it means. Now, anytime you want to do something, so we have a function here, it says what? Function greet, return greeting. Okay, so they are just calling this greeting variable, but they could still call this particular function. Okay, you could still call this particular function by just saying that contract.greet, and that will still return the same thing. Anyway, let's go. You can test that later, and then you see the return. Okay, so this is now the HTML and whatever. You will not going to talk about this. Let's complete everything. So we are also given this CSS. We'll copy this CSS. Then it says we should replace that in the app.css. So where's the app.css? Here is it, app.css. I just delete everything here and then I put it there. Okay, so, and that's all. The next thing is to run our app. So let's run our front end, npm start. So I say play npm start, and then that will start the app. And if everything works well, then we should be able to interact with our front end. So let's see what happens. Okay, now we have a button. So see the button not there. I don't know why. And so the CSS, we are given this CSS, and this is the best it can do. So it is given at this particular anyway. So let's just use it to do our thing, so that we see that we are not going to bother ourselves again. So what we need is that if you click on this particular button, click on this button, what will happen? It should call the function here, function greeting, and this should go to our blockchain and return this particular result, hello apes. So if I click on the button and it does not return hello apes, it means that there's a problem somewhere. Okay, so let's try that. That's the problem. If there's a problem, we fix it back. So I'll click on this, and then what is it saying? It says that missing revert data, action call, data, whatever transaction to. Okay, so first you can see that we have the address shown. So this is now working. First thing is the address, which is this one. First, we have this, and then we got the address, we set it to account, and this is showing. And then the next thing to do is to click on the grid. I don't know, the one they have here is not really showing very well. I think there's a problem somewhere. So it says missing revert this and this and this and this to contract address this. Okay. So let's see what the problem is about. Okay, so this is a contract address. So you see, there is a problem, and the problem could be that when I was doing the front end or the back end rather, I did many deployment, many compilations, and no, the ABI I'm using here, might probably it is the initial ABI when I did the compilation, the initial compilation I did, that could be the ABI. So normally you get that problem. And then we can easily debug by also going to the console. So this is something that everyone is used to when you are building your application. So we have a laptop view. And then let me go to the console. Okay, so Office is giving us that software engineers. So error missing revert data action, this and this and this. Okay, so let's see, uncaught and errors.ts. Data to this. Okay, so always make sure that you get to debug really well when you get to place like this. And I also have a problem with this contract, this Apechain thing, but this is something that is really you have to just be willing to face these kind of challenges. Okay, so we are getting this API, great stuff like that. Okay, I don't think there's a problem here. ETL.js, everything is there. Okay, so let me replace the ABI and see. I'm going to replace the ABI, or I will do a new deployment. Okay, so let's do something here. I'm going to delete this. I'll delete this one. Then I'll delete the cache. Okay, I'll delete the cache. I'll come back to Ignition, delete deployments. Okay, something like this. And then what I'll do is that I'll create, let me just open the new terminal. Then I'll go back to the root. I'll go back here. And then let's do a new deployment. So remember how the deployment is done. I'll copy, where is it? So I'll copy this deployment command, and then I'll put it here. I change this one to hello ape.js. Okay, then I'll deploy a new contract. So confirm deploy to this, yes. Okay, so this will create a new deployment with a new artifacts folder. So you see, you'll be facing a lot. There was a time that I compiled first with a version of 0.8.17. And then later I changed the version from 0.17 to 2.8. And then I recompiled, I redeployed. Now what happened is that the moment you do that, the first one, the artifacts folder will capture the first deployment. And if you do another deployment, so now there's going to be an inconsistency, especially with the ABIs, because you cannot use version this and then the version this. They will not. They will have a conflict. So now I have a new contract address. I'll send it back to app. So inside front end, app.js. And then here, I'll replace it here. Okay, so I'm going to grab my ABI again. So inside contracts, this. So Okay, so I'll grab this one. Then we go back here and replace it. Okay. So I'll restart the project again. So npm start. All right. So let's test again. Same error. So what I would say is that probably there's a glitch somewhere. What you guys need to do now is to test at your end. And then if you test at your end, let me know if you are able to get a greeting, because there is a glitch somewhere. And this is an RPC issue. Okay, this is an RPC issue. I don't really understand why we are having that issue. So this is probably from the MetaMask configuration. Okay. Hey. Come on, check something. So so what actually happened is that I was on the wrong network. Okay, so it's, you see what, sometimes coding can really mess up with somebody's mind. Okay, so I was on the wrong network, and because of that, I was getting RPC. It was communicating with the wrong RPC. Okay, so check something here. This is the network I was supposed to be on, but I was rather on Arbitrum Sepolia. So the thing is that even though I changed it back to Ketes, but sometimes MetaMask, you will do it and MetaMask will not automatically change it like that. So when I communicate, it was taking a wrong RPC. So it was taking the RPC from Arbitrum Sepolia. Meanwhile, it was supposed to communicate with the RPC on Ketes. So because of that, this Hello Apes was not coming. So now the return from the contract is working. So this is the return. You see Hello Apes. And now when I click on this particular button, I got Hello Apes. So that is the thing. Now, if you want to do maybe, I want us to do something very quick. What I'll do is that, okay, I'll just give a parameter to this. So I'll call it passing greet or passing name. So let me say name, which is going to be a string. So, okay, so string name. And then here, what we'll do is that we say greeting, return greeting. Okay, so plus name, stuff like this. Okay, so this should be a call data. It should be a call data, and that's why it is showing like that. Okay, so check something. So this is what will happen. Now we're going to pass in an argument, that is your name, and then let's try something again. Let's go back and deploy the contract again, then we see what will happen. All right, so I'm going to compile the code again. I'm seeing so npx had compile, npx had compile. Okay, so compile successfully, and then now I'm going to deploy it again. That will give me new ABI and the new contract address. So in here, there's a problem here. Now, remember I was telling you that we have to go and clear the cache so that we can redeploy again. If not, the one we deployed earlier will conflict with what I'm coming to deploy. And you can even see here, confliction is already happening. So I have to delete this one. I'll delete this. And then also delete the cache. And then inside ignition, where is it? Ignition here. I'll delete these deployments. Okay. So now, after doing that, I'll redeploy again. Oh, okay. So deployed. Then let's see a new deployment. Okay, so this is taking a while. All right. Okay, so a new deployment just occurred. I have my new contract address. You copy this one again. Then I go back to app.js and set the contract address. So I'll set it to the new deployed. Then I go back to artifacts and grab the ABI, the newly generated ABI. So this one, I have to grab this one. So I'll grab this one. And then I'll bring it to the front end. Then replace here. So I'll replace here with that. Okay. So now let me start the app again. So npm starts. Okay. So a new app started. Let's see what happened. Hello app. Okay. So now we can call, check something here. Okay. So now just clicking this particular button. Just clicking this particular button, what happens is that it will call the greeting, it's called the greeting thing. But let's say that we want to pass a name. So that will now mean that we have to create a form or something that will receive, you know, a new name. So let's just say we create an input. So say we want to have an input so that you can receive, so this particular thing, let's create a use state. I don't want to, I'm sure we are tired now. So let's create a use state and we call it cons. So say message or name, then set name. And stuff like this, which will be a string. So now what we'll do here is this particular use state, set name, we'll give it out to this. So we say this should rather be set name. So something like this. Okay, so let's look at the logic here. And then we have name. Now let's display the name under here. So I'll create something here, maybe a div, create a div, and then I'll display name there. Something like this. Okay. So now we have something like this. We're going to call the greet. We have the greet function. So that's what we're going to call. And then we pass in this particular, so we have to create a function here. Okay, so we have to create a function here. Then we can call it function. Okay, so I can call it function. Let me create it outside. and then call it. Or let me just say function greet, stuff like this. I wanted to do something very simple so that this will not waste our time as we are exhausted. So let me call it outside. I'm going to create a function, an async function, set greeting. So, okay. So AI is giving me the thing. So this will now make our work very quick. So function set greeting, this and this, and no, this is not what I want. So what I will just do is that I'm going to create a contract use state here that will take the instance of the contract. Okay. And then here, when we get this particular contract instance, we set contract to contract. Then I can now bring it inside here. Okay. So I'm sure this is, I don't want to keep you guys. Okay. So now what we're going to do is that, let's say try catch. All right. So something like this. So this is a quick the use of AI to do things very quick. Okay. So now we're going to do this. All right. Now we have the instance, the use state that have the contract, then cons contract with this and this and that. And then now what we are doing is that we are calling the contract and we are passing in the name. So let me just do something simple. I don't need this signer thing. I don't need it. Hold on. So, okay. So const transactional wait. Then what I will call here now is check something. So I'll not say contract dot. Remember the name of the contract was called what? Greeting or greet. And then I just pass in this one. And that is it. So here, let me receive a parameter here. So I'll call it name parameter. And then I'm going to just do something here. It says that console.log await this and this and that. All right. So now let's go and set this. Let's use this particular, let's rather call this function down here. So now instead of calling this, we are going to call this function. Now we don't need this. We call this function on change this and this and that. Okay. So all right, no. Let's just set it there. And then we're going to now pass in the name as an argument. So stuff like this. Okay. So I have a script problem here. Okay, so async function. So this is a type problem. Okay. So I want us to do this very quick. I know you guys are tired, and I'm tired as well. All right, so let's look at what is happening here. Now, this particular async function is, this is what it's doing here. It is setting the name, it will take the name, and when it take the name, it call the contract function called greet. Then we pass in the argument. What we receive here, we pass it in here. Then when we pass it in here, what we need to do now is, so let's do something here. Now let's get a button just under here. Let's get a button, which will be an on-click. Okay. So something like this. Check something. So a button here, update greeting. And what this particular update greeting is doing is that we are calling in the we are going to call this update function, this update greeting function. We call it as an on-click inside here. Okay, so we call it here. And then when we type in the input, whatever we type in the input will be set in the use state. Okay, so when we now call this one, we pass in what we have in the use state, to display. So something like that. I just want us to do this very quick. So enter name. I'm gonna say enter your name. Stuff like this. Then we're going to enter name. So say Yaku. Okay. So let's wait, and then let's rather do something here. We are not going to display the name here, but rather when we get a result here, let's update something. So say set, let's have a message here, a message display. So cons, guys, if you are tired, just tell me. I'm now thinking about you, because so say cons message and then set message. So we're going to have something like this. And then now when we come here, after calling the function update, we'll get a result. So we're going to set the result that we'll get from here. So let me do something first. Console.log. Transaction. Okay. So check here. And then we say that, so we put something like this. Then I click on greeting. Hold on, that will interact with the blockchain. Okay. So what we are doing here is to update. So now instead of this, we can have okay. So let me stop here. It's 9:03. I don't want to overburden us for tonight. This was just to add up to the testing, but maybe the next time we meet, we'll do more about these things, and then we can have everything working. So now you can also try that. We've gotten to a level that all that we'll be doing here is now to do testing. Okay, so we have a function here. This function, just get a function like that. Then when you get the function, make sure that you are able to pass something in, then pass it to the function that you get from your blockchain. Okay, so when you pass it, you can log in you can console log what you will get. So now this is what I want to do. After console login, we'll see where we can get the results, the return. Okay, so the transaction, we can then set the transaction to set message, and then we can give the transaction there. So this is what I wanted to do. You can try that. First, try to console log what you get from the blockchain. And then when you do that, just make sure that you're able to get everything right. Okay. So personally, I'm very tired, and I know you guys too are tired. The session is recorded, will be shared with you tomorrow. And if you want to ask more questions, or if you are building and you're facing any challenges, you can always reach out to us, and we'll be able to do everything together. All right. So if you have any question to ask, the floor is now open for you to ask your question. Okay, so try to test whatever we do today. Just test everything, try to understand what is going on. That's all I want to see from you guys. Just try to understand that this is what is going on, and then so let's do that. So I'll pass in this. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, do we have any question? Do we have any question? Or we are good to go? Okay. So much about take over. I think we have spent so much time, more than how we wanted to go. We have really gone far. We expected to close at 8:30, but it's 9:20 now. So, okay. So tomorrow we have a session, and within the days today, there will be sessions coming. So we'll be doing more building, more coding, and many other stuffs happen. Okay. So just make sure after every session, just go and test. Try your hands on it, and you perfect yourself with everything. Okay. But what we have done today, that is the basic way of setting up your development environment as a Web3 developer. Okay, that's the basic and the most appropriate way of doing everything. So you don't need to suffer too much if you are if you're able to go through this, what we just did today. If you're able to go through that, you'll get your development environment set up, and everything will be working for you. Okay, so that is it, and I think we can't close the session now. Matt, are you there? Over to you.
Yeah, I'm there. It's getting hotter.
Mm,
It's
tired.
getting hot, in fact. So thank you very much, Sadia, for this wonderful session. And to those that survived till the end, I think we just have to take it serious and do whatever he said we should do. And tomorrow we will continue again. I think that is just what we can say for now.
Oh,
We'll have
okay.
to-
So sorry to interrupt. So
yeah.
I want to give this to you as an assignment. I wanted us to do it back. So where we have stopped, I need you guys to call the greeting function. So try to modify your contract, like something like this. Just try to modify it. And then when you modify, try to return the greeting and the name, stuff like that. Just and then you should be able to display something on your front end. You can just show a screenshot of your display of what you are getting from your backend. So I'm sure that where we have gotten to, it should be very easy to do, but we are all tired right now. Okay, but I need you guys to just lay your hands on it and do it. Okay, all right. Okay, so over to you.
Oh, you are done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think we can close now. It's almost 9:19. So see you guys tomorrow. And once again, try and encourage your team members. They should always join. If you are alone doing this, it will be very difficult for you during the building phase. So encourage them to keep hanging until the end. Just being at the beginning and then you dropped later won't help. I really don't understand. We started around 20 members. Now we are just only 8.
Yeah, I'm going to your girlfriends.
That is it.
Yeah, boyfriends.
I'm even surprised the likes of Barowski and Co are still hanging on. That's most surprising. Mm.
But let's
Okay,
get some
so
pasta.
mm,
Say pasta.
thank you for yeah. Thank you for coming and see you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
A
All
round of
right. So
applause.
have a good night. See you tomorrow.
All right. Okay. Bye bye.